Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Vermont was founded as an anti-slavery state. The bold action by the framers of Vermont's Constitution gave hope to abolitionists. For them, Vermont was a North Star, an example for the rest of the nation to follow. If it were only that easy. It would take nearly 90 years from Vermont's founding until the end of the Civil War for slavery to be abolished. Although far from the fighting in the South, Vermont was a stage to rally supporters and a target for those from near and far who did not agree with the demands of abolitionism. Our guide for this look into Vermont's past is historian Howard Coffin. He brings us to villages, churches, and town halls where the fires of pro- and anti-slavery sentiments were stoked.
Vermont's anti-slavery reputation, of course, goes back to 1777 when a constitution was adopted that was the first in the Western Hemisphere to outlaw slavery. People with anti-slavery sentiments came to Vermont. In 1828, William Lloyd Garrison from Boston came to Bennington to publish an anti-slavery newspaper. He left with mixed feelings about Vermonters and abolitionism, but he was soon back proclaiming that Vermont was the state to plant the banner of anti-slavery on the summit of the Green Mountains. The abolitionists came again and again. Frederick Douglass, Wendell Phillips, Charles Sumner, and of course John Brown. Garrison came time and again to spread their message as the Civil War neared. Garrison was invited to speak in Randolph in 1858. He strongly criticized a government that supported slavery. If the government is corrupt, put it away and make a new government, he said. It is the right and duty of the people to alter and abolish it. That is what I was taught by George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, and I thank them for that. Strong words, so strong indeed that when he wanted to speak 4 years later, in 1862, the town said no. Having been essentially banned in Randolph, Garrison came up the hill to nearby Braintree at the invitation of Reverend Amy Nichols, pastor of this meeting house. Before he went in to speak, Garrison stopped for a moment to look at the beautiful scenery. Nichols described what happened in the meeting hall. He said that such a country could be peopled only by those who love liberty. And since they insist on freedom for themselves, they should insist on freedom for all people. This church in Randolph Center bore witness to the fact that not all abolitionists got a warm welcome in Vermont. Orson Murray of Brandon went on a speaking tour in 1838. He was harassed in Windsor and Burlington, and then on coming here to Randolph Center, Abby Hemingway, the historian, said there was a strong feeling of opposition to this meeting, and boys and men, moved by the seditious spirit, came with eggs and other missiles and succeeded in driving Mr. Murray from the place of meeting. A temporary peace was organized, though, and most powerful men physically were stationed in various parts of the house, and thus the meeting passed quietly. The Topsham Town Hall stands right beside the church. Just before John Brown's execution on the 2nd of December, 1859, Reverend Johnston called a meeting here at the town hall to discuss the event. He spoke, saying, "A martyr to liberty will John Brown die. His blood will cry for vengeance, and from that blood will rise up thousands of John Browns armed with moral weapons and sworn to conquer and destroy slavery or die. There were several speakers at the meeting, one of them Charles Duvall, a young man from a local farm. While he was talking, a large man rose from the crowd with some kind of a weapon in his hand and walked toward the speaker. Two local men jumped up in the crowd, grabbed the man, and ushered him to the door. Like most Vermont towns, there were many opinions on anti-slavery in Topsham. The Reverend Ethan Robinson Johnston was pastor of this East Topsham church before the Civil War, and this building was built in 1853. Johnston was very much anti-slavery, and in the years before the war, he brought abolitionists here to speak. William Wells Brown was born in 1814, a slave in Kentucky. He eventually escaped across the Ohio River and went to England for a time, where he was self-educated. Reverend Johnston brought him here in 1860, despite the fact that when word got out of his impending arrival, a letter came to the Reverend threatening that if Brown showed up, he would be carried out of town. A couple weeks after he spoke, someone painted on the church walls a slogan, "Death to traitors," and it included some other racist talk. Charles Duvall, who had spoken in favor of John Brown, became a soldier in the Vermont Brigade and died in 1864 after the Battle of the Wilderness. Reverend Johnston went to New York City to try to find him in the military hospitals there, but when he got there, he was dead. He brought the body home. The funeral was held in this church. It had been the tradition of the church that caskets remained out in the vestibule, but for Charles Duvall's funeral, the casket came here to the altar.
The spirit of activism is alive and well in the Green Mountains. Currently, a group of middle school students in Brattleboro is petitioning the Select Board to include the names of black soldiers from Brattleboro who fought and died in the Civil War. The names would be added to the town's Civil War monument. Monuments to those who served and died in the war dot the hills and valleys of Vermont. Let's join Howard Coffin once again as he visits some of the memorials to the state's Civil War soldiers.
The towns that were hit hardest by the Civil War here in Vermont erected the first memorials. Here in Derby Line, this monument was erected on October 31st, 1866. Two speakers at the dedication, Josiah Grout, veteran of the Vermont Cavalry, soon to be governor, and a man named B.H. Steele, who said, 53 of the soldiers of our town lost their lives in the great work, and such lives, young, ardent, promising lives, around which clustered our fond hopes and tender aspirations. The monument has a plaque listing the names of all the soldiers from Derby who served. There are stars beside the names of those who died. There are many stars. One of Vermont's most intricate Civil War memorials stands here on the green in Coventry, dedicated in 1912, and made not of stone, but of metal. It has the likenesses of George Dewey, the hero of Manila Bay, who won a Medal of Honor in the Civil War at Vicksburg, of Abraham Lincoln and George Garrison Stannard, heroes of Gettysburg, and of Ulysses Grant. It also has the names of major battles. And there's a quotation on this monument that I like. 'Tis a rough land of rock and stone and tree, where breathes no castle lord nor cabin slave, where thoughts and hands and tongues are free, and friends will find a welcome, foes a grave. Brattleboro's Civil War monument on the north side of the village in the town common is one of Vermont's finest. Atop it, a Union soldier looks south toward the old battlefields. The monument is from a grateful town honoring the 385 Brattleboro men who served. It includes a plaque bearing the state seal, a list of many of the major battles in which Vermonters fought, and also there are the healing words of Lincoln from the second inaugural address: with malice toward none, with charity to all. Woodstock honored its 289 veterans by putting an eagle-topped monument by the village school. Years went by, and the veterans decided it wasn't adequate, so they put up a new one in Tribou Park on the east end of town. It was dedicated on Memorial Day 1909. 1,500 people were present to see 30 young women in white dresses pull the flag off the great edifice, while the old veterans gave 3 cheers and a tiger. Roar! The monument honored Woodstock soldiers who had fought from Big Bethel to Appomattox, Big Bethel being the first battle of the war in which Woodstock troops had fought. The Woodstock monument faces due east. Vermont monuments to the Civil War face in any direction, north, south, east, and west. Confederate monuments almost all face north, so as not to have their backs to the Yankees. But the Union won the war. Vermonters didn't care which way they looked.
Thank you, Howard. And once again, thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard.